What is going on, everybody? How are we doing today? Welcome back to United versus everybody. I am your host, Sean, and we are back this morning with a Manchester United News Roundup. Got a little bit to talk about today. We're going to recap on some of the stadium news that popped up yesterday. We're going to talk a little bit about potential incomings, potential outgoings, and all that. And then obviously take a little moment to recap some of the Champions League action from yesterday because it was hilarious. Um, Hopefully, you guys are having a good day today. I know it's bright and early on a Tuesday or a Wednesday. Wow, it's Wednesday already. But let me know how you're doing. Get involved in the chat. Like the video. Subscribe to the channel if you are new. We are going to roll right along. Danny B already in the house. Good up, man. How are you doing this morning? Just wanted to get my computer. I was worried there for a second that we weren't going to be able to go live right away simply because my computer, as computers want to do, decided it wanted to update last second. So we are here, though. Glad to see everyone this morning. Hope everybody's doing well. First and foremost, I mean, we got to take a moment to laugh at Liverpool because, I mean, if you can't get up for when your rivals are losing and get knocked out of a tournament, then football is not for you. I know people will see here the rivals, Liverpool fans, if you sit there and laugh at them, are going to tell you like we're living rent free. You're obsessed. This is called rivalry. This is what sports rivalries are. We're allowed to laugh at you. You're allowed to laugh at us. It is what it is. Sometimes we look like idiots. Sometimes you look like idiots. All the time you look like idiots. But at the end of the day, that's what this is. So we can take a moment to laugh at Liverpool, knocked out of the Champions League on pens to PSG after failing to score at home to the richest team in a farmers league. I mean, you can't laugh at that. I mean, literally, my wife and I were on our way home from dinner last night, and I had the game on the radio, and just and I'm listening to it, and Donnarumma saves Darwin Nunez, and I'm like, I started laughing. I probably scared the shit out of my wife, but I just started laughing, started pointing at the radio. But it is what it is. Talk about this Anfield heritage. They couldn't score at Anfield, and they want to sit here. Liverpool fans want to sit here and talk about like Arne Slot doesn't have these players. He doesn't have the players like these are the same players that you guys have been bigging up for the last couple of years. Diaz, Darwin Nunez, who you guys literally were bigging up, clinging, clutching at straws, telling us, "Oh, he runs, he runs, he runs. He's got energy. He puts up." I don't give a fuck if he's got energy if he runs around. If he's not able to put the ball in the back of the net when it counts, and what the hell does it matter? Um, and then who else you guys complaining about? Jota. You guys are complaining about Jota. I mean, come on. These are the players you guys have been bigging up for years now. So I don't want to hear it. We don't have a six. We don't have a six. You bought four midfielders a year and a half ago. Not one of them was a six. You guys still bought Endo as well. I don't want to hear it. This was just like Arsenal not having a young squad. This was by design. You spent several years strengthening in January, by the way, and then you bought a whole entire new midfield, including a World Cup winner a year and a half ago. And this is where you guys are. You guys sat here and gave us the big one about Rasmus Højlund and Darwin Nunez. Darwin Nunez is so much worse than Rasmus Højlund. He says, I knew Darwin was missing. We all knew Darwin was missing because it's Darwin. It's like the anti-survival of the fittest, man. Reverse Darwinism for this idiot. But we gotta laugh. Did Arne Slot blame the referee yet? I don't know. I didn't see or not. I wasn't watching the game, like I said. So I know he likes to do that. Arne Slot's going full Arsenal. But we can all laugh because it's funny. So on the rest of the Champions League, Xabi Alonso and Bayer Leverkusen kind of regressing to the mean a little bit, kind of going full Postecoglou, Roberto De Zerbi route where start really strong, have a really, really good first season, and then it just kind of starts tapering off. Obviously, could not find the net at all against Bayern Munich over two legs after beating them pretty well last year in the league and whatnot. Inter, of course, knocked out Feyenoord, Robin van Persie's Feyenoord. Barcelona handled Benfica pretty simply over two legs. So now it's going to be either PSG versus Club Brugge or Aston Villa. Secretly now pushing. I was telling my friend yesterday, this guy Billy, who big up Billy again for hosting the for the United match versus Arsenal. Man, the dude is a phenomenal cook, and he's just so generous with his home and his food and his time. So big up. Might be going back over there today to watch this Madrid derby later on. But I was telling him, who who we want to win. I was like, I want PSG to win, and he doesn't. He hates PSG. I don't like PSG, but I dislike Liverpool more than anything. So I told him I want PSG to win, but then as soon as they win, knock out Liverpool. I'm all over Aston Villa now, which sounds weird, but I want Aston Villa to win because it means money for us. Rashford progresses into next rounds of the Champions League, just like Jadon Sancho last year with Borussia Dortmund. We get more money. Rashford plays a hand in that. If he scores some goals and they get to like a semifinal or even a final or something, we get more money. So that's all I care about at this point, trying to get some of that cheddar cheese from this Rashford loan. Bayern will play Inter, which could be a really cool match. And then Barcelona are either going to get Dortmund or Lille. I think Lille and Dortmund are 1-1 right now in their ties. So again, 100% behind Aston Villa, simply for the money that we could be getting from Rashford's loan. So let it ride, man. Double down on that. But let me know what you guys are thinking. Danny B says, João Neves, what a player. He's coming into it. I mean, obviously we saw him at Benfica doing really well. I really wanted him. I think he was as one of those kind of energetic, drop deep, start the phase of attack, take the ball off the defense, and then he just gets stuck into, like, he reminds me so much of Scholesy. It's not even funny, just with stature and just like the energy and just the fight he puts in. Now he doesn't have that ping, that pass that Scholesy does, but I really, really like him. Arden Yashari, man, that's the one. So if you guys are wondering, like, we did that little mini scout report on Yashari. If you guys are wondering who the hell is this Yashari guy, go watch Club Brugge play today, Aston Villa. You'll see who I'm talking about. But who are you guys rooting for now? Lionheart's big up. Lionheart's is PSG. C'est la vie, right? What is French for fuck off, Scousers? Somebody tell me what that is. Let me get Duolingo out. I'm going to look that up. Danny B says, yeah, pissed I was. We funded the deal. Yeah, I mean, I still like Manuel Ugarte. I'm not going to lie. He's still very good. I think we've needed someone like Manuel Ugarte for a while, probably since Ander Herrera has left. We've needed just someone, just a ratter, someone who's just going to get around, get stuck in. Like, I don't need him to do anything silky, but his balls into the final third and whatnot are not bad. But I need someone with a bit of that fight, a little bit of that dog in them in the midfield area, kind of like what Licha does in that back line, to just get stuck in and just let the opposition know, like, this is not going to be an easy midfield battle for you today. And I'm why. So I got no problem with that. João Neves and Ugarte, they're very different. If we could have both Ugarte and João Neves, that would be a thing of beauty in that pivot. I think that pivot would be a force to be reckoned with. But I think Yashari is an excellent person to come in. Hackney, I think, could be good as well. A lot of options out there. And we can get Yashari and Hackney probably for the same price as we would get João Neves for. So big up, Box. Good to see you again. We're just kind of recapping some of the Champions League right now. You're welcome to join in and laugh at Liverpool a little bit, Box, before we move on to the news. But we were just wanting to do that. But yeah, on João Neves, I mean, Danny, he's like, Arne Slot completely underestimated the class in that midfield at PSG. I mean, this is without. I mean, Fabian Ruiz is not as good as I think he was at Napoli, but like. And I think was Zaire Emery maybe injured. I don't remember, but Vitinha, like such a good midfielder. João Neves obviously is just class, and then the goal that Dembele scored yesterday was just perfect. I watched the first half, and his goal was like that's what happens when, as an attacker, when it seems like the play is dead, but you continue to follow it. You have to follow the play up. You have to, whether you shoot, whether it's follow it up, because you don't know what's going to happen. The comedy of errors between Liverpool's defense and they squeeze a goal and level things up. And that's what can happen. And those are the kind of things, that's the kind of mentality level you have to get to when you want to compete on the Champions League, when you want to start really putting yourself in at the big kids table. That's when Dembele's looked excellent slotting in as a striker too. And then Barcola, I mean, PSG were the better side. They could have won that had Barcola maybe taken his chances and whatnot. So Box says, I can see why PSG offloaded Ugarte. Very different type of player, right? And again, the Champions League is where you're really going to have to assess PSG, because in domestic leagues, I mean, they're expected to win that. Just same as Bayern. Like, that's just the way it is. I don't really like when they handled Brest in the last round of the Champions League. But I think that this is when they come up against these guys. I think that's going to be the difference maker. Now, I do think there's João Neves to me is very different than Ugarte. I think Luis Enrique prefers players who can do a little of both. And Ugarte obviously is not as João Neves when it comes to playmaking and building out, but very good. Ugarte is still a very good player. Box says Vitinha, Ruiz, Neves, Zaire, Emery, all better. Technically, yeah, technically better than Ugarte, but he's just not that kind of player, which I don't have a problem with. But we do need someone technical like that, like I've mentioned before, like someone like Yashari or something. But um, Box says I always thought PSG would beat Liverpool. I mean, I was if had it gone to had it been 2-0 in the first leg, I would have been a little hesitant to kind of jump that gun, but 1-0 coming at Anfield. I mean, it was Liverpool started energetically, and I was getting frustrated with PSG. They just weren't Nuno Mendes did not have a good first couple 10, 15 minutes, I thought, but they slowly just kind of just quality took over, and so glad to see it. Jay, welcome back. Said I'd see Dalot off at the airport, just wave to him. If you came up to him in a 1v1, even to shake his hand goodbye, he'd probably freak out and shit himself, though. So, Box says that might be the comment of the stream so far. Why didn't Salah play last night? Oh man, like I said, I honestly don't know. I'm not saying it just a joke. Has Arne Slot blamed the ref? We know that he likes to do that. So, Danny says João Neves has that grit and pressure like Ugarte too, Sean. He has all. Yeah, he's like the complete midfielder for sure. With João Neves, you don't have to worry so much about having someone next because he can do it all. I'm a little frustrated with him that he decided to go to PSG and not maybe test himself in a little bit more of a competitive league, but it is what it is. He's young. PSG will make a ton of money on him, so it is what it is. But yeah, if I had to choose between two, I probably would have chosen João Neves. You guys know I was annoyed that we didn't get him, but I'm not going to complain about Ugarte, especially maybe it's personal. But I've liked Ugarte, for years since he was still at Sporting. I loved Ugarte, so it is what it is. So moving on to some stadium related stuff. So obviously we spoke yesterday at length about the stadium update, the big announcement that came out. I'm still not feeling the whole that whole netting canopy thing. That to me that still looks weird. It looks I'm not a fan of it, but the overall stadium does look nice. I just don't like that. That's just a personal aesthetics preference though. But United CEO Omar Barada was speaking yesterday, and he had some comments of his own to add. And then most of it was stuff you can expect, but he did add a little something that could have to do with the women's team. Now, I think the women's team does not get as much support from the club, and I think it does not get as much following from the fan base a lot. You don't see it talked about a lot, and I'm not saying I'm not trying to be this white knight or something, but I think that they are very good, and I think that we've lost some good players, we've lost some good coaches over the years because they're not really treated very well by the club. They haven't been since they really started. If you remember the stories, I mean, Casey Stoney's gone now. We can speculate what happened. We've lost some really good players for free, Earps and whatnot. But they're doing very, very well. They have some very, very good players. But Omar Barada was speaking on how this new stadium could impact the women's team. And he said one of the concepts around the design is that we can adapt it to open it for games that have a lower attendance. That being said, I would love for a women's team to be using this stadium as their only stadium. I think even if you weren't letting the women use it on a regular basis, right? I would love to, you could hold some women's Champions League matches in there and stuff. You can have women's Champions League. You can do everything. That's the whole point of this stadium is it can be used for more, and that's how you make money. Now, I do think it needs to be football first and other events second, like concerts and maybe like NFL games or whatever, like Spurs do. But United first, everything else second. But you can't discount the opportunity there for revenue to have those things. I mean, whatever brings in revenue, that's the name of the game. But I love the women to play there more. I've seen them play. They've played at Old Trafford once or twice that I've seen. I just don't remember off the top of my head. I know sometimes they share Lee Sports Village with the youngsters as well. Box says, I am glad we got Ugarte. Yeah, I love Ugarte. I love him a lot. He's a good player. Box says, in an ideal world, a mini Old Trafford could host under 23s, under 18s, women's charity games. Yeah. I saw some stuff that maybe Old Trafford could be torn down once we move to a new stadium, and that would take about a year to do. I don't know if there's like a cobweb on my camera. I don't know. I saw a report maybe the club's not sure how financially feasible it would be to keep it open for those things, but I don't think at this point any option is completely off the table. But obviously, the option that is off the table is renovating Old Trafford for the first team because that's just not going to happen. But Lionheart says losing Earps was massive. It was massive, man. It was such, and we've lost a lot of really good players over the years. Kristen Press left, Tobin Heath left. It's Zellum obviously gone. It's frustrating. It is. I'm glad we've got some. We still have some good players though as well. I mean, Rivier's really good. Fallon's very good. Um, Letitia, I like my Galton is doing very very well this season. We have some really good players as well. But losing Mary Earps was a tough one to take. But I think that the club, and maybe it'll be different under Ineos. It didn't start off too differently because we did kind of kick him out so we could renovate Carrington and give the first team and whatnot some space to train. But I think that the Ineos has an opportunity here to really do right by the women's team, and it's not hard to look better than the Glazers in that regard because the old regime treated them like shit. That's just the way it is. So the women's team has been doing very well. Obviously, FA Cup holders in their leagues, they've been doing really well, holding on the fort as well. So big up the women's team. You guys know I always got time for the women's team. Fox says 100K will be massive stadium, not many bigger in the world of football. Yeah, and that's the point. I mean, we could host Champions League finals, World Cup matches, and all that is revenue. And that's, I mean, like whether that you care that much about it as a fan or not. I mean, obviously we want a good team on the pitch, and but in order to do that, having the revenue from those kind of things is going to help. Spurs are making money hand over fist right now, and so it is what it is. Justin, yeah. Speaking of the women's team, yeah, we almost went to a women's team game. I just could not get a hold of anybody at City to get tickets. So it is what it is. Would have been a good game to go to from what it looked like, the Derby. I think that the women's team did win that one. So, but what's good, man? Good morning. Hopefully seeing Justin this afternoon if he can get out of work in time to go watch the Madrid Derby later on. But yeah, let me know what you guys think about the women's team, possibly sharing that space. I think it would be great to have like FA Youth Cup games and stuff there. The FA Youth Cup and the youngsters this year are definitely getting a big following. I think we could easily get that stadium at least halfway filled for this. The women's team too is getting more and more of a following. I like to see more of it. Maybe I could do some watch alongs for the women's team as well someday if that's something you guys would like to be a part of. Well, it says Manchester Derby and the women's semis of the FA Cup. Yeah, man. Don't forget the women's are still in the FA Cup. The youth are still in the FA Cup. We're not in it anymore, but we've still got teams in it, and they're still holding down the fort. So big up the women, big up the under 18s, man. We got some good teams at this club. So sticking with the stadium for a hot second, Kieran Maguire jumped on with Stretford Paddock yesterday. He's kind of been making the rounds the last couple of weeks. United View, Stretford Paddock discussing some different things. He had some thoughts regarding the stadium. Now, Maguire, obviously, if you guys aren't familiar with Kieran Maguire, he's a football financial expert. He lectures. He's got a podcast called The Price of Football. I have his book back here, The Price of Football. I did include it in my football books that everybody should read. If you guys remember that stream from a couple months ago. Some of it is just, a lot of it's over my head. Like I've had to reread a lot of sections of the book once or twice to start to maybe get a tip of the iceberg understanding of it. But when it comes to football finance, he is the go-to. But he believes that a stadium will help United's finances, like we discussed. He's used Spurs Stadium as a reference point, and the increase in revenue that Spurs have seen since they've moved into that new stadium. He says Spurs are set to host something like 30 non-football events, which, I mean, that's just revenue as well. Which United can do with this new stadium. He spoke about financing. He referred to Real Madrid. They've got their financing, which actually is kind of like good. There is such thing as good debt, right? And I saw an article earlier too talking about this with Madrid, but they have like this good debt. So they have this initial investment from outside parties, but there's different ways of doing it so where they're not on the hook for so much. So instead of like having to pay back stuff, like Madrid, for instance, part of it in one investor's case is like this investor gets a small percentage of the gate receipts for the next like 20, 25 years or something, things like that. Maguire was a little skeptical, though, and I'm sure Danny will jump all over this as well. He was skeptical of Sir Jim Ratcliffe's claim that United would have run out of money by Christmas, though. Maguire wonders how that could be, and if so, if it's true, how the shareholders or the New York Stock Exchange wasn't aware of this if it were true. So he's questioning Sir Jim's claim a little bit, wondering again, like we saw yesterday with the ticket prices, if maybe Sir Jim is misinformed. I don't think Sir Jim would just knowingly lie if something was like ticket price or something. If he's saying these things, it's either, to me anyway, it's either because he's been told or he's been misinformed. So I don't think that he would just come on and lie. He can't just blatantly lie about stuff with the way that the club is publicly traded. But Maguire still said the statement itself, even if it were true, is a bit flippant the way he kind of said it. And we said this a little bit yesterday when we discussed the interview. Some of the phrasing that Sir Jim was just maybe not the most ideal, but that's more of a subjective thing than anything. But it's interesting. But I think forget Gary Neville, forget BBC Sport. I want to see Sir Jim sit down with Kieran Maguire and kind of go through some of this, because I think Kieran Maguire obviously doesn't hold back with a lot of his opinions, and I think you need that sometimes. Gary Neville did not hold back either. I think Gary Neville was a little bit more leaning anti-Glazer than kind of pushing Sir Jim on a couple things. He was kind of Gary Neville, he was pushing Sir Jim, but to me it felt more like he was pushing Sir Jim to kind of be openly critical of the Glazers and not actually kind of pushing Sir Jim on his own decisions and whatnot. There was a little bit of pushback from Neville with like the charity thing, and he made some good points, and it sounds like Sir Jim was open to that and receptive to that. So fair play to Sir Jim for just sitting down and being honest. But at the same time, like I said yesterday, I did have some feedback. I did have some criticisms, and I still have some negativity towards some of the decisions that Ineos have done. So it's not as if I'm pro Ineos. I'm just also not anti Ineos, if that makes sense, man. So boxes, yeah, I just checked Spurs future stadium events. There's tons of music, concerts, rugby, boxing. Yeah, I mean, do it all, man. Get Gaga in there, get the Kennel Club dog show, and I don't care. If it makes money, it makes money. So Lionheart says, so if United take out a loan for the new build, would that be considered as good debt as it would help to grow the club? I think it would depend on the terms, right? Because you can have good debt, like getting a credit card and like being like, I use a credit card for the points. Like I went from using debit card to using the debit card, but the credit card's in my name. We don't do anything extravagant with it. I literally just spend it the way I would spend my debit card, but I just use the points to finance my Manchester trip, because you use those for miles, right? And we're going to be using them for Verbo next time, because Verbo lets you use points now too. So, but paying that regularly, that looks good for you. That helps with things like that. And so I'm not going to pretend, Lionhearts, to know the intricacies of all these things. Like I said, I'm not a football financial expert. You guys will never hear me sit here and claim and make some, wild like statements and things and say that I'm some sort of expert, because I'm not. I'll stay in my lane for sure. So whether that's analysis of tactics, like I have a certain level of understanding and a certain level of depth that I can go to, but I know when I'm swimming in the deep end and when I'm in my comfort zone when it comes to stuff like that. So to answer your question, Lionhearts, I'm not entirely sure. Again, it would be, I think, like the Madrid situation, it would depend on the nature of some of those individual kind of investments from different parties, I think, because some things yes, some things no. It just depends. So Danny says NFL. Yeah, didn't they have like the Falcons or something? I know we've had some NFL games in the UK recently as well, which I don't have a problem with. I really don't. I know like people are worried that things are moving away from the club's history. I think people are already up in arms about the stadium itself. And I just there gets to be and again, it's not Ineos's fault. You literally can't do anything with Old Trafford. You literally can't. And even if it were possible to do something, we would have to go play someplace else for like 5 years while we renovated it. It's just blame the Glazers. They didn't do anything to the stadium. They've never touched the stadium. They've barely left Tampa other than to get a photo op with a trophy. It is what it is. They had to stop service to that railway line, the Old Trafford station, back in like 2017, 2018, because it's just run down and stuff. Like, this is just the way it is right now. And I get that there's so much history at Old Trafford. I get it. To a lot of people, a new stadium is going to feel like soulless, but and without that history, we can make new history. I'm not saying that doesn't mean you disregard old history. That'll always be part of it. I'm sure a lot of what's at Old Trafford, Munich Tunnel, Museum, all that will come into that as well. You can never forget history. It's like moving out of your house, your childhood home. You could have lived there 25 years. It sucks. You've got your little height measurements on the door frame. You remember where you played in the backyard. You look out, there's a tire swing. You remember all the memories you have at that house. But none of that goes away just because you've moved into a new house. It's we've all been there in those situations. I get it. I'm not saying I like it. You guys know, like, I love Old Trafford. I'm blessed to have been there like half a dozen times now in the last couple of years. It's an old stadium. I love the area. I'm actually very thankful that we're not moving to a completely different area. We're still literally on the same footprint. I think that in itself people are not addressing, but it is. It is. Bach says Danny True looks like they're hosting more concerts than Wembley as well, and that's the way you do it. The stadium, Spurs Stadium, costs way more than initially anticipated, but they are going to be making money hand over fist, like Danny says, raking in that money. Daniel Levy loves that cheddar cheese. Boom, boom. Danny says Spurs spend big. Did they spend a whole lot? I mean, they sold Harry Kane, right, a year and a half ago. Did they spend a whole lot that first? They bought, who did they buy? Who's that winger that they got that I don't even know if he's still there anymore? I forgot his name now. Solomon or something. Manor Solomon, I think was his name. They get Van de Ven. Porro, was Harry Kane money for Porro? I don't remember. Are they still going to be claiming that Harry Kane money for a while, like Liverpool do with Coutinho? Box says, hopefully they spend it on more Richarlisons and Dombele's, yes, or Timo Werner's while we're at it. Leinart says, so they keep the name? I don't know if I would want to just pretend that it's Old Trafford anymore. It's probably going to be like Snapdragon Stadium, or I don't know. I mean, I'm going to miss not having Old Trafford, but I wouldn't want to call it Old Trafford. That just seems like you're just make me like faking it, and that would just, to me, that would be more insulting than anything. We'll figure it out. Obviously the naming rights present an opportunity for revenue as well, just like the training ground sponsors and whatnot. So we'll see what happens. I don't think that just because something is named by sponsored, like the naming rights doesn't, we don't call Carrington the Aon training complex like we did for years, right? It's called Carrington. That's just is what it is. So, oh, was he on loan? Interesting. Dana says they spent well. Yeah, finally they got some good players. Porro was an excellent buy. Van de Ven obviously he is good, but the injuries are killing him. But it's not like when they sold Gareth Bale and the only good player they brought in was Christian Eriksen. Who else did they get when they sold Gareth Bale? Who was that striker that they got? I can never remember the guy's name, but he was garbage. They had so many players for that Gareth Bale money, and none of them were good at all. New Trafford, yeah. If I see New Trafford anywhere, I'm gonna friggin' smash my foot in the door or something. That would just be dumb. That would just be so dumb. It doesn't have to be like some sort of crazy name or anything like that. It doesn't have to be like, oh, it's White Hart Lane or the M16 like park or something. It doesn't have to be anything like forcefully creative like that. That usually just ends up coming across as something stupid. Like my wife and I joke sometimes because there's this like we're counselors, we're therapists, but there are so many like companies, whether it's like massage parlors or parlors, that sounds weird, like spas, but I guess you can call them, or like therapy clinics or whatever, and they have like they really force the creativity. So they'll say like be unique therapy, but like it's unique instead of like the regular unique, and I'm like, I just can't stand that. And I'm not trying to be, it sounds so judgmental and elitist, and that's just not my preference. So it is what it is. But Gold Trafford, there you go. Sold Trafford, right? Adidas Arena. I mean, it could be anything, man. Like Snapdragon Arena, Snapdragon Park, whatever you want to call it, man. I would prefer if it wasn't Snapdragon. If you the name Snapdragon Park, it sounds weird. It sounds like some sort of like breakfast cereal or something, like Snapdragons. Box, yeah, Gray. I do like Gray. Bergvall has proven to be an excellent little player. Odebear, that's the other guy. Sar. Yeah, Odegaard and Sarr took a minute to get going. Gray has been playing out of position, but I liked him a lot at Leeds. And then Bergvall obviously is looking like a little bit of a revelation. Box has maybe time to officially call it the Theater of Dreams. Who knows? I'm sure there'll be some PR about getting the fans involved and whatnot, but it's at the end of the day, it's gonna naming rights are probably gonna go to the highest bidder. So we'll see what happens there. Sticking with some United facility related news, not to do with the stadium, but this has to do with Carrington. So this is coming from James Ducker. But remember that when Sir Jim and Ineos came in, one of the first things they did was put in some money to renovate Carrington. Obviously, we've seen some mock-ups of that. It looks pretty cool. Unfortunately, they did kick the women's team out of their facilities so the other teams could do their stuff there. But so that wasn't a good look. But Carrington is being renovated. Hopefully, maybe when they're done with Carrington, they'll look at the women's team stuff too. But I think the media and fans have forgotten too that Sir Jim has invested a lot in the club already, including Carrington. But James Ducker with Telegraph reports that £50 million renovation of Carrington will be completed this summer, and it will be open and ready for use at the end of July. So we will be back at Carrington the end of July. It's taken a minute, but there was a lot of work to be done. So Carrington has not been nothing's been touched at this club, and people are forgetting that. Like even just looking at the debt and the interest and the squad and the lack of structure and all that, like people are forgetting just the little things, like the fact that Carrington has never been touched in 20 years. Like that can't happen. Like the Glazers were just happy. It's like getting a Lamborghini 30 years ago and never giving it an oil change, never getting it, a tune-up, never rotating the tires, never replacing any fluids. But you're just like, well, this car was the fastest car 30 years ago, so it should be fine. We're just gonna keep letting people take photos with it, and we're gonna keep raking in the revenue from that. But it's it's criminal, man. Like, and I know we're biased because we're United fans, and out from the outside looking in, like when I talk to my wife about this stuff, she doesn't understand, and I'm like, I tell her at the end of the day, like I get it. It's football. It's not crucial to everyday life for most people. It's not crucial to my life in many ways if it gets down to like the bare bones of it. But at the end of the day, it's still very, very important to me. It's still very, very important to you, and we are going to have opinions on it. So, but yeah, Carrington could be done the end of July. Could be good to get that training ground. We need to start upgrading a lot of these areas. Obviously, the stadium's next. Carrington, let's keep it going. Let's get the women's and the youngsters some really good facilities. Let's figure out a way to get them, better taken care of and represented, and appreciated as well, because they are putting in a lot of work as well. So I know Skinner gets a lot of crap, but dude, he's on his way potentially to win a second FA Cup in a row with the women's team. I don't understand what people are complaining, but it is what it is. So moving on to some potential transfer news. I'm going to get some water real quick. So this is coming from Rudy Galletti. We're going to kick things off with obviously the thumbnail news. Rudy Galletti claims that Bayern Munich and Real Madrid are monitoring Diogo Dalot, as he is highly appreciated by both Vincent Kompany at Bayern Munich, Vincent Kompany and Carlo Ancelotti. I don't know what's funnier, that again Vincent Kompany is managing Bayern Munich, or that someone like Carlo Ancelotti is highly rating Diogo Dalot based on what we've seen so far this season, especially. But according to Rudy Galletti, it's Dalot's consistency that appeals to both managers. Hey, to be fair, Dalot is consistent. I mean, he's just consistently poor. In all seriousness, no. I mean, the best thing you can say about Dalot is he's always available. Like the guy's never injured, so you have to give him that. He's got to step over, but usually that doesn't come to anything. but he's available, which is more than what we can say for a lot of players at this club these days. Availability is the best ability, right? So, but this isn't the first time that Real Madrid have been linked with interest in Diogo Dalot, which was interesting though, because I think that obviously it's pretty well known that they're in for Trent Alexander-Arnold. I think Fabrizio Romano even said last week that that deal's pretty much locked up. I saw that he went off injured yesterday, so I'm not sure what happened there, but he'll be free at the summer, and that's pretty much. I was under the impression that was pretty much a done deal. Obviously, Madrid do need a lot of help in their back line. They've got a lot of older players. They've got a lot of injury-prone players, and obviously Carvajal's missed the entire season so far. So they do need to spend some money there. But I think Dalot could do well in a team where he could just be a right back and stuff. But I don't know if he's the quality that Madrid are going to be looking for, but he definitely is a player that doesn't look super comfortable in this system with the increased intensity demands and the energy demands and the physicality demands. I don't think he's very comfortable, confident, assured in these 1v1s, whether he's defending or whether he's attacking. His end product has not been good since he signed for us. His crosses, 9 out of 10 go into Rosed. One of them might find their target. And most of them, even like, if you remember like Garnacho's bicycle kick against Everton, or even Bruno's goal the other week, they're all behind, and these players have to do a lot to make up for Dalot's poor passing. So, let's see. Danny's praying. He's crossing everything: toes, fingers, ears. Everything's getting crossed for Danny. Box says he's had a poor season. He just doesn't look comfortable, and he's been really, his shortcomings are getting exposed with the physicality that's demanded from not only Amorim's system, right, but I think just the way the league is now. There is so much more physicality. Teams are really pressing. There's a lot more energy going on. A lot of this is just the way some of football is. A lot of it is the culmination of some, like Liverpool, Newcastle. Some of the building of that squad physicality overall has now seen them full of squads who are very physical, and we're just not there. But Dalot is just, these 1v1s, he's not great. He's not comfortable on the left. His crossing is garbage. His passing can be suspect. His decision making when he's in his own area, like he constantly just making bad decisions when it would just clear the ball, dude. Stop trying to pass it. Just clear the ball. But stuff like that, he looks like a deer in headlights whenever he's closed down by somebody. So we'll see. I do think we can make a tidy profit on him wherever he goes. I do think that the sell is like he just maybe doesn't fit the system, or even the better sell is Dalot's looking to maybe move on to a new challenge, and that's how we make sure we get some money, because we didn't pay that much for him. So I do think that he represents a bit of profit. So Bach says he looked good a few years ago. Last year we can't question his mentality. He was a mentality monster for us last year. Monster is a loose term, but this year he just looks a little uncomfortable because he's been exposed. Danny says he'd take 20, 25 million. I think you could probably get 30, 35 million for Dalot easily, maybe even more depending on the team and depending if he picks it up towards the later end of the season. But I do think the plan should be to replace Dalot. I do think that I don't know if Quenda is ready for the first team. I think I would rather put in Camason, but I don't think Camason's ready. So it might be a case where it's about priorities. If it's a priority to move Dalot on because we think that he's a net negative in this system, then we have to think about that. But I don't think Quenda is the automatic answer there. I think that if we do lose Dalot, I think we would have to prioritize someone who's better, like Frimpong or something for 40 million. I saw a rumored price tag. So that's what you would have to do if we lost Dalot. Again, it's just another one of those situations where if you lose this player, even if it's a player that you're open to losing, we have to replace him. It's just the way it is. So then he says, get Fernandes or Quenda and promote Camason. There is a player at Olympique Marseille that I really, really like, who's like 24, doing really, really well, plays that role perfectly. Let me look him up real quick for you while I'm doing it. I might do a report on this guy at some point too, but this guy is doing the job out there at Marseille. Where is he? Luis Enrique. Luis Enrique is a 24-year-old Brazilian, plays for Marseille, doing very, very well this season in the Roberto De Zerbi system, playing on that right wing-back spot. Has 7 goals, 4 assists in 25 matches, or 23, sorry, just turned 23. So go check out Luis Enrique. I really like him a lot. Roger Fernandez is that other one Danny's mentioning as well. Then he says, we have Maz too if we sign 2. Yeah, Maz is good for us because he is versatile and he can do both. It's just hard to know which one he's maybe better at. I think we've decided maybe he's a little better as the right center back, because some of the qualities from that right back, the ability to kind of drive the ball out from that back line, do translate well to a back 3 system for a center back. But we've also seen him get very heavily involved higher up the pitch on these counterattacks. He could have had a goal the other day as well, for instance, and he's doing really well. So we'll see. It's anyone's guess. But again, you lose Dalot, you do have a little bit of a hole depth-wise. But I would promote Camason like Danny's saying, and maybe we look for someone. I like someone a little more experienced, like I said, like a Frimpong, like this Luis Enrique at Marseille as well. Then he says, I vaguely remember him a couple years ago. Good numbers, Sean, and you play for De Zerbi. You need to be technically good too. Yeah, I like Luis Enrique a lot. I thought about doing a scout report on him recently. I just haven't had that much time to sit down and do all those. Obviously, with being so busy right now, we know that Europa League time, midweek matches do kind of mean quick turnaround for streams. But I was able to squeeze in the news today. There's a bit more news than I anticipated, so I know that we will split that up. We will be back later on this afternoon, though, to do the match preview. Not going to be super in-depth match preview because we literally just played these last week, Sociedad. So, but we will talk about that a little later on today. So, sticking with defenders, though, Tudo Mercado Web claims United are among a host of clubs who have asked for information regarding 22-year-old Genoa center back Connie de Winter. Young center back, like I said, 22, kind of plays on the right hand side. A little versatile. He can also play as a right back as well, kind of like what we've seen Mazraoui doing. Reportedly, Genoa want 30 million euros for this kid. It's a lot in my opinion, for a defender who's quite frankly not even a regular starter in the squad. He's got only 16 starts this season, De Winter. But again, he is versatile. He is young. Maybe there's potential. I'd still like to maybe go for someone at that price, especially you can go get someone like a Valentin Gomez or something who's similar age, plays regularly. Valentin Gomez is left-footed too, so he could fill in that Leacher role as well. And you've still got guys like Bashali who will be free. Jonathan Tah is even free in the summer. I mean, that could be a thing too. But it doesn't really matter to me that this kid can also play right back because we don't really play right backs. But again, maybe it's like a Mazraoui thing. But that's what the report is claiming anyway. I think the report also included teams like Inter, Spurs, West Ham, Napoli, and I think Roma were all reportedly keeping tabs on too. But it sounds like Genoa are kind of trying to cash in a little bit. United fans will be familiar with Genoa. There's a good player there right now, I think, in Frendrup. Danny says Santos at Lille, but injury has killed his development. I remember Thiago Santos. I used to sign him in my career mode. Very good young little player. Lionhearts, how much would Yamal cost? 250 million might get Yamal's right foot. That dude, he and Nico Williams just ran the show on those flanks for Spain, man, in the Euros, man. Yamal is very good. But then this is why you can't. Yamal is one of those players who it's very easy for fans to compare their young players to these guys. So they say, well, look what Yamal's doing. He's like 16 years old. I'm like, yeah, he's like Holland. He's a freak of nature, like Mbappe at Monaco. They're just freaks. You can't count them when you're comparing your young players, when you're assessing your young players. It's just not going to happen. Look at the vast majority of players when they're that young, and that's how you compare. That's called sample size. That's how you do it. If this were a bell curve, Yamal would be on like the tippy far right of that bell curve in terms of quality for that age, and that's just a little population distribution statistics for everyone out there. That's what you get at this channel, not just football. You get a little psychology, you get a little philosophy, you get a little stats. Who else is doing that for you? Not anybody. Then he says, I haven't watched much of him, to be honest. Prefer to get Frendrup. Yeah, we were linked with Frendrup in the summer a little bit as well. Good young player. There's a lot of good midfielders out there right now. If people just take a second to scout. If our scouting department actually did a little shred of scouting, I don't care, man. Get the guy out there in the flat cap and the mug of coffee and the old school notebook. Get him out there on the foggy mornings and tell him to go watch these players because there are a ton of good young players. Go spend some time in Belgium. Go spend some time in South America. Go spend some time in the Netherlands and whatnot. You'll find some good players out there. Priceless Lionhearts, yeah. Yamal is just so beyond. Like, if United were going to try to sign Yamal, it would be a choice. Do we want to build a stadium or do we want to sign Yamal? Because you don't get both. It's just not going to happen. Pay him in installments. Oh man, you'd be paying forever with the way we are right now financially. Then it says Juan Jimenez, Gomez, 2 center backs from Argentina for about 20 million with add-ons and center backs sorted. Yep, we're gonna talk a little bit about Gomez too because you kind of threw me right in. You guys are like psychics. You guys, in the last couple streams, you guys have literally made comments in the chat that are right what I'm about to talk about. So good on you. Maybe you guys have hacked my computer and you see my notes. But sticking with center backs, Danny, Footy Insider have reminded us this week of last week's reports regarding our alleged interest in potential alleged formal negotiations actually with Rosario Central regarding 18-year-old center back Juan Jimenez. We talked a little bit about that last week when those reports came out. I threw out some numbers for you guys in a mini scout report. But that was the report. We were reminded that today. But then what I also saw today was another journo. His name was Guillermo Ferretti. He's actually claimed that United scouts have denied any plans that we're going to be making any offers for Jimenez. So never a dull moment. You never know what's out there. All the reports regarding Jimenez have literally only come from like South American journalists. And I'm not going to pretend I know who a lot of them are. I tend to judge. You're going to Google a lot of them to in terms of reliability, and tier this, tier that, see how many, good reports, look back at their history, see how many things they've been spot on about. That's how you kind of get to know these things. But that's why I've given up on Fricayes. I know Fricayes is referenced a lot, but they're not. And even like some of the stuff today with Vlahovic coming from Give Me Sport, you got to read the articles, because when you go read the Give Me Sport article, literally all it says is according to Give Me Sport sources. And I'm like, I could literally sit here for 2 hours all day and say, according to United versus everybody's sources, we're going to sign Mbappe in the summer. Like, it doesn't mean it's legit. So I'm not saying it's automatically wrong. I'm just saying I need a little bit more to go on before I start wanting to pay closer attention to rumors. Danny says, fingers crossed. Danny's just crossing everything today. He's crossing a whole one side of his body to get Dalot out of here. He's crossing a whole other side of his body to get Juan Jimenez in here. There's a lot of good young South American players out there. Some of them that I was watching for a couple of years have moved on to other clubs, like Nehuén Perez, I think, was at Udinese for a while. I want to say he's at Atalanta now, but I can't remember now. But he was another one I was watching for a minute. And he says he played right back against Boca Juniors, and Monday night he played 90 minutes, clean sheet. Didn't watch that game, though. Yeah, if you guys ever have any interest in learning more about South American players, Danny is the guy. He's the guy to talk about. Liner says, so where does Wheeler rank in reliability? His reliability for me is taken a little bit of a hit, just simply because of these just random arbitrary Kobe Manu stuff with the wages. Like, it was 200K this week, and then the next week it was 180K, and I'm like, dude, you're just listing numbers in hopes that as you keep going down, you're going to land on it. And it's just like, this is how a lot of journalists will work. They'll just make random claims. They'll just put random. And this is why this journalism is ridiculous, because you could just say whatever you want. There's zero accountability, and all you got to do later on, if you get it wrong, is just say, well, things have changed, from based on what I was told. And I'm like, it's ridiculous, man. A lot of money being wasted on journalism degrees in the UK. But yeah, Wheeler, like, I'm not the kind of person who's like, until they're holding up the shirt, I don't know. It's hard to describe, but I don't know any more than the journos is my point, but I don't claim to know anymore. Box says, Nunez scored his penalty last night. Give me sport. Exactly. Box bringing us smoke today, man. Digging it. Dude, Darwin Nunez. Darwin, like, it's so funny to me that Liverpool fans, the day after, claiming like, well, Arne Slot has these players are crap, but these are the players you've been gassing up for years now. So which one is it? Then it says Wheeler spinning his wheel. Yeah, Wheeler. Some of these journals, it's like, it reminds me of like this joke I used to make about like Sci-Fi Channel movies, like Sharktopus or something. It's like they've got a board full of animals on one side of the wall, and then a board full of like natural disasters or catastrophes on the other side of the wall. And they take two darts and they just throw, and wherever the darts land, they're like, all right, let's combine that into a movie. We get Sharktopus, we get Lavalantula, let's get Bornado, let's get Pterodactyl. Like, that's how we're gonna do it. Pterodactyl is awesome, by the way. Zombievers, have you seen that shit? Oh, geez. Like, I feel like that's just how some of these movies are made these days, which, hey, I don't have a problem with it. You guys need to look up, there's this one literally called Velocipaster. I shit you not. It's called Velocipaster, and the tagline is, he's a man of the claw. I can't, like, this exists in the world, and I'm such a happier person as a result of that. But yeah, Wheeler does get, I think it's just guesswork, and hopefully something's going to stick. That's just the way some of this stuff works. But big up, Rob. Good to see you again. We're just kind of chatting about the news, man, some of the rumors. But big up. Good to see you again. Speaking of junk rumors, what's this stuff I'm reading about Chelsea potentially not having to keep Jadon Sancho. So we know that there was that obligation, right? If they finished like 14th or above or something, they give us money. It was like 25 million or something. I don't remember. But it can't. But speaking of Chris Wheeler, this whole new thing now is coming from Chris Wheeler. So again, when he's done lowering the wages of that apparently Kavi Manu wants per week, you can read this rumor about Jadon Sancho, but he claims that Chelsea could cancel their obligation to buy Jadon Sancho. The dude has literally not had a goal contribution, or I think like an accurate cross I read from Statman Dave since the new year. But Wheeler claims that Chelsea could cancel the obligation to at a significant financial penalty to themselves to do it. So I'm not. I mean, I think this is one of those things where it's not news, right? It's like someone saying like, "Oh, they could cancel it." Like yeah, they could, but doesn't mean that that's what's happening. Doesn't mean that that's what they're thinking about. Yes, they could cancel it. Yes, we could like recall like Marcus Rashford from Aston Villa or recall Antony if we want to. Yes, that is a possibility, but doesn't mean that just because someone writes that doesn't mean that that's a thing that's going to happen. So Box says Sancho stocks hitting a new low. Yeah, Chelsea fans were all sorts of gassed up. When they got him. We signed United's best player. That didn't take long for them to realize the reality of the situation. Reality, man, life comes at you pretty fast, right? Leonard says, I remember when Sir Alex banned a bunch of journos and he let them back. He told them that their only job is to tell the truth. This is why I call Samuel Butthurst, because the dude has literally been banned by United like 3 times now over the years. So you got I don't believe hardly anything that Samuel Butthurst writes. It's all usually negative spin. Danny says they send him to Strasbourg. Yep, bye. See you later. Go to Vitesse or something. He can fuck off, man. Although Strasbourg did sign a player that I like this summer. I forget his name now. There's so many players that it's so hard for me to keep it. He's like a young winger, blonde guy, long hair. So that usually means he's on his way to Chelsea. But yeah, I don't know where this Sancho stuff's come from. I don't know if there's to me, it doesn't seem there's much into it. Yes, Chelsea could choose not to. For a financial penalty doesn't mean that that's what they're thinking about. But it was just random. Thought I would get your guys' thoughts on that one. In some outgoing news, though, no, not a player, but some outgoing news. And we can maybe celebrate this if you want to. Maybe it's going to be so interesting to see the after effects of this for the next couple of years in terms of player fitness. But head of medicine Gary O'Driscoll, who joined United from Arsenal like a year and a half ago, is leaving Manchester United. He will be also joined out the exit door by first team doctor John Moxon, who has been here 2 years now. So Gary O'Driscoll, head of medicine, John Moxon, first team doctor, are leaving the club. They are going to stick around for a bit to help with the transition period for their replacements, according to reports. And allegedly, this does not have anything to do with injuries and whatnot that we've seen over the years. But we can all say it kind of has something to do with the injuries we've seen, right? I mean, the players are never fit. They're falsely reported to be near fitness, like in the case of Luke Shaw and Malacia. Remember that? They're misdiagnosed sometimes. You remember that Licha's foot was not fully healed. They missed something in there. So, and then many times these players have to go get second or even third opinions, like with Casemiro's injury a couple years ago. Like, these doctors are not fit for purpose, man. It's Danny says celebrate. Oh man, you could absolutely celebrate. How about we can do one of these? We can do a little. The team has been not fit for purpose for years. I mean, when was the last time anyone even saw Mason Mount's face? Box says, I remember O'Driscoll being in Arsenal for years. Like, this is ridiculous. Rob says both fed up off Luke Shaw. I mean, they've both been kept in the job by Luke Shaw. They would be sitting around twiddling their thumbs for the last couple of years. Although Dr. Death is going, yes. Dr. Pepper, Dr. Seuss, Dr. Dre, they're all leaving. Get him in. Danny says, best news I've heard all week. Yeah, it's insane, man, the injuries that we've had with these guys. Box says Mount's back. Is he, though? Is he? I know I saw, and that was my next point too. See, you did it again, guys. You literally jumped right into my next point. And maybe I'm just better at organizing these so it kind of flows seamlessly from one point to the next. Maybe I'll take a little bit of credit there, but you guys are kind of tracking correctly, so maybe it's just kind of universal sense. But James Ducker, Lori Whitwell have let us know that Mason Mount has returned to first team training. I'm not going to do the noise for that one. The match against Real Sociedad, though, is expected to be a little too soon for him, but he is back in training. He is close to recovering. According to the report, Ruben Amorim is desperate for Mount to return, as he sees him as the ideal fit for the number 10 role. Remember, Amorim had nothing but glowing praise for Mount when he first arrived. He loves Mason Mount. Cool, though. He's back in training. Awesome. Doesn't really mean much, though, does it? We've seen that before. He's going to come in. He's going to make subs appearances for a couple matches for 10 minutes here, 25 minutes there. He's going to start some random match, pull up with a hammy 5 minutes into the second half, and then we won't see him until next season. It's nothing personal. I sound heartless when I say that. I understand that, but he and Shaw really need to think about retiring. Their bodies are screaming at them, begging at them to just give up, because it's not going to happen. Their bodies are letting them down. It's not the worst thing in the world for your body. The worst thing would be to ignore it until it's too late, but you're costing yourself and everything. It's annoying. Liner says, good. Which of them cleared Mount's medical? Oh, he'll be grand. Only got 2 broken ankles and his knee is dodgy. Yeah. Like the whole thing we saw last week about the club trying to come up with some sort of algorithm to predict injuries, like that's a load of shit. You can literally go online, look at a player's injury history. We do it all the time. Go to Transfer Market. You can Google injuries, like the nature. Like that's how I realized. It took me 2 minutes on Google to just figure out the long-term issues that are going to occur and how connected Mason Mount's separate little injuries, ankles, hamstrings, they're all connected, and they're not going to get better. Like it's just the way it is. And that's partly, maybe that's just genetics. And when you're in a sport, your livelihood is literally putting those kinds of physical demands on those parts of your body. Like it's not going to get any better. Athletes get different injuries to everyone else because of the nature of what they do, and it doesn't get any better as you get older. Let me tell you right now, the moment I turned 30, boom, groin, like immediately groin pull, a couple months out. You guys remember in the spring, tore ligament in my foot playing footy. 3 months, I couldn't even walk for a month. That's done. Did my IT band needed, so now I've got a foam roller that I use now and then when my IT band gets a little tight. I didn't know the IT band was an issue. I thought I had done something serious bad to my knee, because when the IT band between like your knee and like your pelvis area, when it gets tight, it doesn't have a whole lot of give, and so it feels like your kneecap is kind of pulled everywhere. So I just got to use a foam roller now and then when that gets tight, and that kind of loosens it up. But I was worried I was going to have to wear a brace or something. I was worried I wasn't going to be able to do anything. But thankfully, it's just getting old. So there's that you guys have to look forward to if you're not as old as I am yet. But Rob says, I watched the United training footage earlier, Mount and Ugarte. Yeah, we're going to talk a little bit more about some of that. Obviously, Ruben Amorim is doing his presser probably as we speak. We're going to come back later on today to preview the Sociedad match tomorrow. So come back for that. That'll probably be like 1:32-ish. So come back for that. Dana says, hopefully he gets a run of games. I just sold Mount to, I think, West Ham in my career mode. So I did a live start point that started like end of February, got to the summer. Shaw's gone. I think I sold Shaw to like Newcastle. Mount went to West Ham. Rashford went to Napoli. Sold a lot of players, a ton of players. So big up, Darkrow. Good to see you again. Welcome back. Darkrow says, can we call Shaw and Mount greedy for money and earning unethical wages? I don't know if I'd go that far. If you get injured doing your job at your job, I mean, in any other walk of life that we call that getting paid for that is called workers' comp, right? You're going to get paid for it. I don't think they're greedy. It's not like they're happy to be injured. You remember Phil Jones did that interview a while back, and he's like, I don't want to be injured. So people who are telling me to give up my money, like give my wages back, like I don't want. It's not like he gets up and he's happy he's hurt. Neither of these guys want to be injured. It's like it is what it is. Sometimes you can't help it. But that being said, I've moved past trying to plan on them being a part of the squad. And that's just, I'm not concerned with them as much as I'm concerned about the squad. So you get some sympathy for being injured. I'm sure it sucks. I'm sure you're bored. But at the same time, we're moving on. Like, I don't have time to sit here and wipe everyone's ass when they get a little dirty. Like, it just is what it is. But I don't think they're greedy personally. You can think they're greedy if you want to. I don't think it's unethical wages. What does it matter if you get hurt and you're out for one game versus out for a while? You still got hurt doing your job. It's just, somebody's a little more lucky than others. So does Salah need to give his wages back because he hurt his shoulder in a Champions League final? Probably not. I mean, this is the nature of sport. You're going to get hurt. Bach says, I think Mount should give it a few more years, but Shaw at 39 with injuries backdating to 2014, he should defo retire. The problem with Mount, yeah, he's younger, right? But at the same time, it's the nature of the injuries and how connected, and then the long-term implications of those specific injuries. It's only going to get worse. It really is. So maybe it could be a different team that plays a different system. Maybe it's a different league that's a little less, physical. I couldn't tell you. Sometimes that is the difference maker, just finding something that's a better fit for your current situation. I couldn't tell you, but Amorim likes him. So Dargo says, so what are they doing, playing with fans' emotions? I mean, if they're playing with your emotions, I mean, I'm sorry. I would say if you're getting that emotional about it, try not to let it bug you so much. They're injured, they're not here. I guess I wouldn't want you to waste your time and your emotional energy and your mental energy, Darko, worrying about Luke Shaw and Mount. They're not on my mind at any given point in time yet. Sucks. They're on a lot of money. It is what it is, but I just don't trying to let it get to you, man. You can let it bug you for 5 minutes. You can let it bug you for 5 days. You can let it bug you for 5 months. I mean, that's entirely up to you, but try not to let it bug you, man. There's other stuff we can worry about, like whether or not we can finish our dinner tomorrow. Lionheart says, hey, Rocky did stop fighting when he was advised to stop. Still beat BA, so I hope for Mount. I mean, yeah, nothing is over, right? He's a killer kid. But yeah, Ruben Amorim loves Mason Mount. So, but that's pretty much it for the news, you guys. Like I said, we will be back later on this afternoon for a short little preview of the Sociedad match. Like I said, it's not going to be too in depth, simply because we literally just played them last week. So, but it is an important match, probably one of the biggest of our season, because it does mean the only route to Champions League football, and it's probably the best shot at that we have. We're not going anywhere. We'd be lucky if we make it top half the table or anywhere near top half the table, but it is a big match for us. This big match for both sides. So we'll be back to talk about that a little later on. Patrick, good to see you, man. You're just catching the tail end. I'll tell you what, we'll add a couple more minutes here, because this is something I mentioned it the other day, but something I'm going to start doing now to get you guys more involved and kind of just change things up. So this smells bad, by the way, because these are my outdoor boots. This is called Questions from a Boot, and we're going to start today. So you can see I have all these questions in here that some people have asked, or I've just thought of, or I've seen mentioned here and there. Questions from a boot. I've got them on these random pieces of paper, and just maybe now and then we'll just grab one randomly out of here, and we'll put it out to the chat as something to discuss for a hot second. So you guys get to be part of the first one here. So first question from a boot. It's a good one, so get prepared. Should you support rivals when they receive poor refereeing decisions for the overall good of the game, or should you just laugh and enjoy it and just revel in their misery? How do you guys feel about that? Should bad refereeing decisions be called out no matter who you are for the good of the game, or if they happen to your rival, are you just happy to laugh and enjoy it? How do you guys feel about that? I'm going to take a drink while you guys think about that. But that was a good one. That was actually the first one that I came up with for the questions from a boot when I first started writing some of these down. So that was a good one. Let me see. Patrick says both. So I don't know if you can have both. I don't know if my brain can handle that sort of cognitive dissonance, because you can laugh when it happens to them, but then you get mad when it happens to you. So it's like, But it's interesting stuff to think about. Danny says just go full tribalism, full rivalry, just laugh and enjoy it. I don't mind. Rob says laugh, especially if it's England. Yeah, I don't get too involved in the national stuff. I'm mostly because the U.S. doesn't really ever do a whole lot. I think the best we've done in my recent years was like that run we went on in 2014. The Portugal match was a really good match, but we just don't ever seem to do very well. I mean, we didn't even qualify a couple of years ago. We got knocked out by like Trinidad and Tobago and stuff. So The international stuff, I always have a soft spot for the Netherlands. I always like to see the Netherlands do well, but we'll see. I could maybe get over to some World Cup matches in 2026 next summer, maybe depending on where they are. That's something that a couple of us are trying to do. But Lionheart says, "Laugh." By the way, I'm not gonna lie. I'm glad to see the full tribalism come out because again, like I've said many times, like we started the day laughing at Liverpool. If you can't enjoy that, like football might not be for you. I don't care if we lose tomorrow. Like I'm still gonna take today and yesterday and is up until our final whistle tomorrow to still laugh at Liverpool a little bit because that's what rivalry means. You're allowed to do that. Sometimes you're going to be the one who's looking like an idiot, and sometimes you're not, and that's just part of it. But does it shouldn't like worried about looking foolish, worrying about keeping your powder dry shouldn't keep you from just enjoying the moment. Like that's just boring. That's just boring, man. Um, but that was a fun one. Let me know if you guys like the whole questions from a boot thing now and then because I do have a lot, as you can see. Maybe we'll do some of those every now and then, but we'll see what happens. Patrick says, "Well said." You know what? I'm gonna take it. If, like I say, in my ranting and rambling, if I stumble upon a nugget of truth now and then or a nugget of knowledge, then I would consider it a good stream. So, but thank you, Patrick, for the confidence and support. That is gonna do it for me. You guys, Danny says it's a good idea. All right, we'll keep it going. I won't maybe do them every single stream, but every now and then, we'll do one. So kind of like the scout reports. I just like that, shake things up now and then. Get your guys' thoughts on stuff that rolls around in here. So make sure you like the video. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you are new. We will be back later on this afternoon to preview tomorrow's match against Sociedad. And then don't forget to keep a lookout. I got to link up with Dylan. I think I'm going to get together with Dylan tomorrow to watch this match against Sociedad. But we're going to try to come up with a date that we can do this stream where we're going to be ranking United managers post Fergie. So keep a lookout for that. I will let you guys know when that gets closer so you guys can be sure to stop by and join in on that discussion. It says question from a boot is a great addition. I might have to switch this over to my new indoor boots. Because these are the outdoor ones. These ones don't get as much use because I don't like to wear them as much just because some of the grass around here is not very long, so this kind of feels like I'm on stilts sometimes. But I do like these. I've had these for a number of years. I am an Adidas guy, not a Nike guy. The Adidas just they fit my foot better. So, but yeah. But thank you guys for getting involved with that. Thank you guys for joining the stream as well. Good to always get everyone's opinions on some of the latest and greatest news. Again, subscribe if you are new. Like the video. We will be back a little later on, so keep a lookout for that. And until then, enjoy the rest of your morning. Enjoy your early afternoon, and I will see you guys in a few hours later.